It's Monday, which means it's time for our look at the power rankings in the Ontario Hockey League. And this weekend was a little different as we had two games postponed due to weather in Erie and up in Sault Ste. Marie. So a few teams only appeared in one game this past week. So it did have a bit of an impact on the power rankings. Let's dive right into it. Sitting at number 20, the Guelph Storm. No change from last week, although it was a decent week for Guelph. 1-1-1 was their record. The win against Windsor, very impressive. A 6-2 score over the Spitfires where Vilmer Ulrichsen scored a pair of goals. And the nice thing, too, about that game are those third jerseys that the Guelph Storm wore. They were sharp, and I kind of hope that with that win, maybe we'll see those jerseys a few more times than what was previously planned at the Sleeman Center, or even wear them on the road. I know some teams get a little superstitious. We saw that with the Sioux Greyhounds and their black third jerseys, where they won a few games and then took them on the road. So maybe we'll see that with the Guelph Storm, too, if they can find something to turn their season around. And with the way they played against Windsor, anything is possible. So coming up this week, they do play a home game, or actually they're on the road to Brampton on Wednesday. Then they're home to Owen Sound Friday before traveling to Peterborough on Sunday. At number 19, the Peterborough Petes, no change, but good news for Peterborough. They now have 3 wins on the regular season after they won in overtime against Niagara yesterday. And it was former Ice Dog captain Gavin Bryant scoring the game winner for the Petes. So a good finish to the week for the Peterborough Petes. However, they lost their first 2 games of the week, but they are showing some signs of improvement. So we'll take that with a grain of salt right now. But coming up for Peterborough, Thursday, they're home to Sarnia. Friday, they travel to Brantford. And then Sunday, they're home to the Guelph Storm. At number 18, the North Bay Battalion, they dropped 2 spots this week. And for North Bay, they played only 1 game because of the game that was postponed in Sault Ste. Marie Friday night. But they did win their 1 game in the Sioux. 3-2 was the final score. And it was Ethan Procession scoring the game winner with 9 seconds left in the hockey game. So they did have a 1-0 record, but because teams around them also showed improvement, that's why North Bay ended up dropping. They're also on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoff picture. So this Battalion team, I'm sure they're going to be able to string some wins together if they can get healthy. But they do have a couple of tough games coming up. Thursday, they're home to Erie, and then Sunday, they host the Flint Firebirds. At number 17, we have the Flint Firebirds, who are up 1 position. For Flint, they ended up playing 2 games after their Saturday game in Erie was postponed due to weather, and they went 2-0. The Firebirds, they looked pretty good last week. They did need a shootout to defeat Sarnia, but after that, they were dominant against the Niagara Ice Dogs, where they put up 8 goals, and Matthew Wang, he had his second 2-goal game of the season, which is looking good. And then also Nathan Aspinall posting 3 assists in that win against the Ice Dogs. So maybe this is a sign that Flint could start to turn things around. And coming up, they are going to travel through the Central Division. It starts on Thursday in Barrie. Saturday, they'll be in Sudbury. And then on Sunday, they visit the North Bay Battalion. At number 16, we have the Sarnia Sting, who fell 1 position. I'll admit Sarnia they could have fallen a few more spots here in the power rankings because Sarnia, they're having some struggles, and the fans, they're also growing restless with the Sarnia Sting. They were 0-2-1 last week and now 1-8-0-1 over their last 10 games. Their last win was November 22nd against the Ottawa 67s, and they also needed a shootout for that victory. So things not looking that great right now with Sarnia. You have to figure something has to give. Is it going to be maybe a change to the roster? Maybe something behind the bench? Who knows? But it seems as though the fans would like to see something done with the Sarnia Sting. But this week, they're on the road through the East Division. Thursday, they will be in Peterborough. Friday, they're in Ottawa. And then on Sunday, they will be in Kingston. At number 15, the Owen Sound Attack. They're up 2 spots this week. And for Owen Sound, they made the best of a tough week. It started off with a 3-2 win on the road in overtime against the Erie Otters. A very impressive win where Bruce McDonald scored the game winner against his former team. But then they lost back-to-back to Kitchener and Windsor, who, of course, are 2 of the top teams right now in the Western Conference standings. And they kept it pretty close in both of those games. So, yes, Owen Sound is below the playoff line in the Western Conference standings, but they're just 2 points back to Sarnia with 2 games in hand. So they do have the inside track. They just need to win those extra games. And the Sting, with the way they've been playing, you have to feel that 8th spot, it's up for grabs. Although we're not even halfway through the regular season. It might be a little too early to be talking about playoff positioning like that. But for a team like Owen Sound, they're battling hard. They bring out the work boots and they battle it out. And we'll see what they can do this week as they're in London on Wednesday. Friday, they travel to Guelph. And then Saturday, they're home to the Sioux Greyhounds. At number 14, the Ottawa 67s, they fell 2 spots this week. And for Ottawa, they've been very inconsistent this season. They went 1-1 last week, and it really wasn't pretty. They were down 2-0 to the Peterborough Petes. They had to come back to win that one 4-2. And then they got chased out of their own barn against the London Knights, losing 10-3. So Ottawa, they're below the playoff line. They're tied actually with the North Bay Battalion. They are 4-3, 0-3 over their last 10 games, so something's got to give for the 67s. Coming up Wednesday, they will be in Oshawa. Friday, they're home to Sarnia, and then Sunday, they host the Barrie Colts. At number 13, the Niagara Ice Dogs, they're down 2 positions as wins are starting to become hard to come by for Niagara. They were 1-1 last week. They defeated Guelph at home, and then they lost to the Flint Firebirds and Peterborough Petes, and that Flint loss was pretty ugly, and where they gave up 8 goals. So those 3 teams, of course, if you look at the power rankings, they're all below them. So things looking a little rough right now for Niagara, but they did get off to that hot start, so that's going to help them with the standings right now. But Kevin He and Ryan Robrick, they do continue to find the back of the net, so there's that consistency. Kevin He, now 3rd in goals in the league with 20, and Robrick tied for 4th with 19. So there's some positives here for Niagara. Coming up on Friday, the Ice Dogs, they're home to Brampton, and then Sunday, home to Brantford. At number 12, we have the Brantford Bulldogs, who are up 2 positions. The Bulldogs got a little healthier. Merrick Van Acker returned to the lineup this weekend, appeared in 2 games, but no points, although he had an impact in both of those games. So it's a good sign for Brantford moving forward, having Van Acker back in the lineup. And for the Bulldogs, they had a big 7-3 win in Oshawa, but then fell 6-2 to the Barrie Colts on the road. But really, despite the score, Brantford, they did play better than what that score suggests. So this is a Bulldogs team that I think is heading in the right direction. A lot of us predicted Brantford would be one of the top 4 teams in the East, and I think we're starting to see that as this team gets healthier. They're still missing some key pieces like Testa and Bujold, but I think Brantford, they will contend in the East, and we're starting to see evidence of that. Plus, the Bulldogs, Nick Lardis, now sitting at 24 goals in 24 games, which has been unreal. Now, coming up this week, Tuesday, they will be in Kitchener. Friday, they're home to Peterborough. And then on Sunday, they visit Niagara. At number 11, it's the Brampton Steelheads, who are up 2 positions. The Steelheads, they look like they're starting to round back into form here. They went 2-0 last week with wins in Sarnia and Saginaw, and they now have won 4 in a row. So some good signs here for the Steelheads. There was a surprising fight there in the game Saturday between Porter Martone and Michael Misa, the 2 players that could go in the top 5 of the 2025 NHL draft. They decided to drop the gloves. It wasn't much of a tilt. And with Martone, it's not as surprising as he does play with a physical edge. Misa, though, he's more of the points producer, the goal scorer. So it was entertaining to see and good to see the passion from both of these upcoming prospects, but not what you would expect. But for Brampton, Jakob Febiger, he also had his first 4-point game of his career. He had 4 assists in the win against Saginaw. So things definitely looking up for Brampton. On Wednesday, they will host the Guelph Storm. Friday, they're in Niagara. And then Sunday, they're home to the Erie Otters. At number 10, it's the Sioux Greyhounds, who dropped 1 position. Now, the Sioux, they only had 1 game last week as a result of the weather, and it was a 3-2 loss to North Bay with 9 seconds left in the game. And it's been a bit of a rough stretch right now for the Greyhounds. They're now on a 4-game losing streak, and they have a record of 3-7 over their last 10 games. This team needs to figure it out quick. Brady Martin, though, he's been a bright spot for Sault Ste. Marie. He has now got a career-high 12 goals and 5 points over his last 3 games. So not bad there from Brady Martin. Coming up on Wednesday, they will be in Saginaw. Friday, they're in Kitchener. And then Saturday, they will visit the Owen Sound Attack. At number 9, we have the Kingston Frontenacs, who dropped 1 position this week. And for Kingston, they played a great game Friday night at home against the London Knights. They tied it late to force overtime, then lost in a shootout. So they gave London everything they could handle. And then on Sunday, it looked like a completely different team as they lost 8-5 in Oshawa. Now, the Generals, they seem to have Kingston's number this season. The Frontenacs are 1-4 this season against Oshawa, and some of those scores have been pretty lopsided in favor of the Generals. So at least they only have 3 meetings left against Oshawa this season. But outside of that, Kingston's looking pretty good. Coming up on Friday, they will host Barrie, so that's a big game going to this weekend, the 2 top teams in the Eastern Conference standings. And then on Sunday, they will host the Sarnia Sting. At number 8, we have the Sudbury Wolves, who are up 2 positions. And despite missing Quentin Musty and Andre Molnar, the Wolves played a very good home and home against the Barrie Colts. They managed 3 out of a possible 4 points, and they fell short in overtime when they were in Barrie on Thursday night, but then won at home 5-3 with Kieran Walton scoring 2 goals and 2 assists. So I know a lot of Wolf fans not happy about the outcome in Barrie, especially with that goal review. Personally, as I called the game, the puck did cross the line. But the question was, when did the referee blow the whistle? I'm not sure if the referees had the off-ice officials had audio to go with the play. I know in the broadcast and the replays, we didn't have access to that. But if the Barrie Colts, they were in a similar spot as what the Sudbury Wolves were in the playoffs last year, where Barrie should have had a goal allowed against the Oshawa Generals, but they said it was the intent of the referee blowing the whistle. There's also, if you look at it, some Wolves fans feel that there may have been goaltender interference, although the referees, they looked at it, and that review is a lot faster than the review about the whistle with the puck crossing the line. So I know it's a very controversial finish to that game, but you have to take the good from that one if you're a Sudbury Wolves fan, because they did manage a point. I know it wasn't pretty because they gave up a 3-goal lead, but this Sudbury Wolves team, I don't think a lot of people have been giving this team the credit they deserve. They've been playing some really good hockey. They're right now in the middle of the pack when it comes to the Eastern Conference standings. And I think that, things are looking bright, especially with Scott Barney as the head coach of the Sudbury Wolves. He's doing a fantastic job with this team. So the future, I think, is bright for Sudbury. And I think you can't dwell on the controversies or the goal that was allowed. You need to look forward. And I think for the Sudbury Wolves team, they should be a team that could be a thorn in the side of some teams. And they were finally able to solve the Barrie Colts on home ice there on Saturdays, or on Friday night, rather. So we'll have to wait and see what all happens next with the Sudbury Wolves team. There's a lot of questions still with Quentin Musty and his future. But I think things are looking positive for the Sudbury Wolves right now. And coming up this weekend, 2 home games. They host the Erie Otters on Friday, and then on Saturday, they host the Flint Firebirds. At number 7, it's the Saginaw Spirit. No change for them. But what is going on in Saginaw right now? They went 1-2, but they dealt with some key players out due to suspension. James Go suspended 4 games, and then Zane Parekh also handed a 1-game suspension. And then now you're looking at Michael Misa looking at a potential suspension for shooting a teddy bear over the glass during the teddy bear toss night in Sarnia. So what happened was the Sting scored the goal. The fans threw the bears over the glass, and Michael Misa, just a reaction, shot a bear towards the glass, but got a little too much on it, went over the glass, and he was handed a misconduct for that. So we have to wait and see what kind of suspension Michael Misa is facing. But right now, it just seems like discipline is becoming a growing concern for the Saginaw Spirit. Although they continue to be the highest scoring team in the OHL, they have 118 goals for. So I still like the look of this team, but something seems a little off right now with the Saginaw Spirit. They do have a busy week coming up. Wednesday, they host Sault Ste. Marie. Saturday, they're home to Oshawa, and then Sunday in Windsor. And of course, the last meeting between Saginaw and Windsor got a little chippy. So we'll have to wait and see what happens at the WFCU Center on Sunday. Usually when there's a lot of hype and expectations that something's going to happen, it's usually pretty tame and nothing really happens. But still, in the back of the mind, it's like, well, what could happen between Windsor and Saginaw on Sunday? At number 6, the Erie Otters, no change for them. They only had 1 game last week due to weather. That one game was an overtime loss to the Owen Sound Attack. So that loss, it didn't move them in the power rankings. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the week ahead. But they do have a road trip through Northern Ontario. They're in North Bay on Thursday, Sudbury on Friday, and then as they come home, they'll make a stop in Brampton on Sunday. At number 5, it's the Barrie Colts. No change for them. The Colts 2-1 last week, and they needed to overcome a 3-goal deficit against Sudbury to earn a win in overtime. So it wasn't a pretty victory, but the Colts, they have been having some issues with slow starts this season and have had to find ways to come back. The Saturday game, though, against Brantford was a different story, and that may have been their best 60 minutes in the last few weeks that we've seen from them. So if they can continue to play like what we saw on Saturday against Brantford, this team should be able to maybe hold off their challengers in the Central Division for a little bit here. But the power play, it's also been improving. So there's some positive signs right now for the Barrie Colts. And for Barrie, they're just 1 point out of first in the Eastern Conference standings behind the Kingston Frontenac. So Things looking up right now for the Barrie Colts, and Thursday they'll start against Flint on home ice. A big game Friday in Kingston, and then Sunday they will be in Ottawa. At number 4, it's the Windsor Spitfires, who dropped 2 spots. It's very competitive right now at the top of the power rankings, and their surprising 6-2 loss on the road to the Guelph Storm, that's what knocked them down a couple spots. This is still a very strong Windsor team. They'll be able to find the back of the net at will. Ilya Protas, for example, 5-game point streak right now, and he posted 4 points in 2 out of those 5 games, while Liam Greentree posting a hat trick in the win against Owen Sound. So I'm not concerned about Windsor right now. But that one loss kind of raised my eyebrows. I was a little surprised by that result for the Windsor Spitfires in Guelph. Now, coming up this week, they have a big game Saturday at home against the Kitchener Rangers. And then Sunday, they're also home to the Saginaw Spirit. At number 3, it's the Oshawa Generals. No change for them. The Generals were 1-1 last week. They gave up 7 in a loss to the Bulldogs, who have been playing some better hockey, and then bounced back, winning 8-5 over the Kingston Frontenacs, who they trail in the East Division by 1 point. So Beckett Seneca, he was outstanding in the game against Kingston. He managed 4 goals, 2 assists, so 6 points for Beckett Seneca. Outstanding. Now, coming up on Wednesday, they're home to Ottawa before traveling to London on Friday. So that's going to be a massive game. And then on Saturday, they visit the Saginaw Spirit. At number 2, it's the Kitchener Rangers, who are up 2 spots. The Rangers, 2-0 last week, wins over Owen Sound and Guelph. They weren't the convincing type of wins you would think against teams like Owen Sound and Guelph, but they're now on a 3-game winning streak. So positive steps here for the Kitchener Rangers. They're still trying to keep pace with London right now in the Midwest Division. But I haven't talked about Cameron Reid all that much here on the channel, but he's been outstanding on the blue line for the Rangers. He's even scored the game-winning goal in overtime against the Guelph Storm there over the weekend. So Cameron Reid, solid on the blue line, and he'll be counted upon as this team continues to move forward. And I do like the core of this Kitchener Rangers team going forward. I don't know if they're going to be a contender in the Western Conference. There's still, it sounds like maybe they'll look to move some players out as they look towards 2027. Of course, that's the year the OHL hosts the Memorial Cup. But UC Ahokas continues to get the best out of the team with his systems. Coming up on Tuesday, they will host the Brantford Bulldogs. Friday, they're home to the Sioux. And then Saturday, a big game down in Windsor. So that leaves us at number 1. No change, the London Knights. And can anyone beat them right now? They went 3-0 last week on the road trip through the East Division. They're now on an 18-game winning streak, and they cruised to victory in 2 out of the 3 games. But Kingston, that was their biggest test. They had to win that one in a shootout 5-4. But Sam Dickinson, he had another 5-point game in Ottawa to wrap up the weekend. It's almost as if he took offense to the 67s, keeping him off the score sheet in the game back in London a week ago. And he was just a man on a mission at TD Place. Now, coming up for London, they're home to Owen Sound on Wednesday, and then a big contest coming up on Friday as they host the Oshawa Generals. So that's the power rankings for this week. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on surprises for you from around the OHL this season, and what are you looking forward to most heading into this upcoming week. Thank you very much for all your support and just tuning in. It's been amazing just to see this channel grow. We hit 600 subscribers just the other day. So thank you very much to everyone who has clicked subscribe. If you haven't clicked subscribe, that's okay, but feel free to join as we continue to talk about junior hockey here in this corner of YouTube. So again, thank you very much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.